So, okay, guys, I was telling you how excited I am to have this conversation, and we're just going to rock with it right up until the top in the studio right now. And as a part of the wise, wild, wonderful, and if you include me, sometimes wacky women of, I know, right, of WRFG series. Is this our inaugural video? Mm-hmm. Is this our inaugural piece that's being caught in audio and in video? We are documenting this conversation with WRFG, Atlanta's own Wiatta Freeman. And the masses go, wow. I see all the waves, you know, the big people waves going up and down all over the town. Welcome, Wiatta, to that side of the table.
You know, this is a little uncomfortable, yes.
But you look good.
Thank you.
You look real good. You must be making it happen. You even make discomfort look smooth.
Oh, that's good.
There you go. So this is what we're doing. We're having a conversation because, well, let's call it our community exit interview for the moment, because it is with another kind of bittersweet joy. How about that? That Wiatta has, I'm sure it took you a moment, you took a pause.
Yes.
And when you got moving again, you had a different direction. Can we say it that way?
Yes.
We're not going to say you're leaving us. We're not going to say that, you know, New Jersey is blessing is our loss.
No.
Because we know with all the technology and travel capacities we have today.
Stay in touch.
That's right.
And I'll be back soon.
And that you'll still be around.
Yeah.
Yeah, but nonetheless, this month is our last opportunity to hear the regular weekly voice and bring the brilliance of her journalistic and social justice flavor to WRFG, and I'm so grateful to have this conversation with Wiatta Freeman today.
Thank you.
Woohoo! I want to start out with your story, Wiatta.
Yes, well, first of all, thank you for having me here, Dazon, and also who is my mentor as the host of Sister Time and her pioneering work with Sister Love. So I follow behind Mama, literally, at 7 p.m.
No doubt, no doubt. And
also in bringing Womanist Feminist Radio to WRFG.
And in our academic sisterhood.
That's right, Spelman as well.
Yes.
And the Women's Studies Department.
And the Women's Studies Department.
We are the fruit of that.
That's right.
So I am grateful. This is a meaningful on multiple levels. My sister, Mommy, as I often call her, Mommy. I also want to say ashe to Mommy who just transitioned into the ancestral realm. Breathing. Sharifa Sa. Ashe. Oh, she really, you know, committed to Pan-African people on such a deep, deep level. And part of this discussion started around a Facebook note that I posted about WRFG and my experience here. And I mentioned African Experience Worldwide is one of the first programs I heard at WRFG. And then to later in life work with her and Umfonfa on African Experience Worldwide when I was interning, but later too substituting for them and being on there, and you know, and having parents from West Africa and loving African music. It was a joy, but also their commitment to doing interviews about Africa and connecting Africa to the Pan-African diaspora. So they used to teasingly call her the adopted continental African woman as well.
That's right, that's right.
I was telling somebody the other day, and I was like, she was born in the States, believe it or not. They were like, really? No, I thought she was continental African.
Absolutely.
But again, her commitment to Pan-African people, and that show has been on so long. I think, I don't know, I know it's over a quarter century. I'm not sure exactly how. Somebody else told me they've been on the air 40 years, so I'm not sure the exact time.
Yeah.
But either way, very long service. So we thank her very much. I know Wadu also is going to deeply miss her. Yeah. But she left a legacy for us to follow in, so we say thank you.
Absolutely. And I'm pretty sure that between now and whenever that you'll be hearing much more of WRFG's collective activities to honor and celebrate the light and the life that is and was Sharifa Sa.
Yes.
So thank you for that. And you just mentioned it, so let's start right there, that you two have the connections to the African experience. And I do want a little bit of Wiatta's story. It doesn't have to be that, 1900 and whatever that was that you were born, but it does need to bring us to the beginnings of Wiatta and WRFG. That you shared a little bit about what you've heard, but a lot of people hear a lot of stuff on WRFG, and that doesn't bring them to dedicating their lives to volunteering to bring such rich depth and meaning to the current events with a womanist and feminist perspective. So let's talk about Wiatta and who she is and what brought her to WRFG.
Okay. Well, where do I start? I came to the station in 2002, and I first heard the station, as I've mentioned before, that when I was hanging out with a girlfriend, one of my friends, and we were driving around Atlanta on a Saturday, and I heard African Experience Worldwide, Serenata Latina, and Rockers International. You know, it was like back to back, you know. And I was like, wow! Like, to hear the diversity, to hear the Pan-African diaspora in expression in quality music, but also in hearing community organizations and lively discussion. I know that is a rarity on radio. And I had been in Atlanta going to school at Spelman and had not heard WRG the whole time. So that was exciting to me just from the jump. And so I became a regular listener after that. And as far as deciding to come work here was after I was talking to a mentor, and I started grad school at Georgia State University. So now I was studying media, doing communication studies there. And I was looking for ways to begin to express that career, but in a way that reflected my values. And my mentor suggested I come over to volunteer at WRG. He asked me, well, what do you want to do? I said, well, I would like to do, talk like a public affairs show, a talk program, talk about issues. He said, why don't you go to WRG? Other people volunteer there and have a good experience. So that, I was like, duh, So I came over here and started volunteering. But as I said, I was on Class Chronicles last night, and as I shared there, and as you said, it's not just everybody, lots of people hear stuff on the radio, but it's because the progressive mission of the station represents the best of what our world could be, represents the values that I want to live by, that I strive to live by, for social justice and for equality for all people, and valuing people across immigrant status and gender and sexuality and so on, and race. So that's why I'm here. And then the bug bit me.
Yes.
So I've been here since 2002, doing so many different things. Yeah.
Love it. And by the way, there is a professional media life that you also engage. So you brought some of that with us.
Yes.
Serving many moons at CNN locally here, and other journalistic engagement or activities and endeavors that you had. But I think a seminal thing that many people may not know in terms of the history that you bring to the station is that it was under your leadership as the chair of our program committee here for many years. But almost
10, I think.
But almost from the very beginning, and I think it was the rightful move of the universe and of the leadership of WRFG to recognize the value and why it was so important that you become the chair of our program committee, is because you shepherded and helped usher in a momentous trajectory of greatly increasing the amount of public affairs programming that we had. There was a huge shift that we went through about 10 years ago to really lift up much more public affairs focus, to make sure that it was more integrated into even a lot of our music programming, so that even inside some of those genres that we were able to bring the lived experience and the social issues, the justice issues, the news of the day to that audience that may not even particularly be tuning into some of our public affairs segments. Can you talk a little bit about what that was, please? Because I know that it was historical, and I don't know if we've documented that in the appropriate way.
Thank you. Iban Zuli, I always bring up Iban when this comes up, because Iban really is the spark for that for me. Iban Zuli was the broadcast director. Ashe to him as well, to his spirit as well. Still working in the ancestral realm.
Yes.
Sharif Saad has joined the company.
Yes, exactly.
and Jiri Al-Ghani, Ashe to her as well. Talk more about her later. But So Iban Dooley was a broadcast director when I came to volunteer, and I started working on News and Views. We used to have that in the morning, like it was about 5 minutes of update on the news during Good Morning Blues. And so I had started doing recordings of that with Iban and his News and Views team, and so I became more acquainted with him. I also started volunteering in the office, so I got to know Joni and Wanique, and just really started understanding on a deeper level the mission and then how logistics work around here. And that's the thing, it's a great way to learn about the station. So Iban pulled my coattail and said he thought I should run for the program committee, and I was in grad school at the time. And I was like, no, sir, I don't have time for that. I'm volunteering News and Views. I think that's all I can do right now. But I'll keep it in mind. Keep it in mind for the future. It sounds interesting. And he was like, no, you need to run. Don't worry about that. We'll handle the rest of it later. I was like, okay. And he kept his, encouragement. So I did run, and I joined the program committee. And then once I got on there, I got so excited about the opportunity to improve on so much programming I already loved and to bring new programming in. But one of the things that happened is that Heather Gray, who was the board president at that time, and also Iban Dooley would have conversations with me extensively about the need for us to increase public affairs if we wanted to live up to our mission, if we wanted to educate people about what was going on in the world and how all the social justice activism that was going on. We already had public affairs, but it was clear that there was a need for more. And also it became clear that we needed to have more conversation about how music is part of the social justice tradition. And so we should ask our music programs to do more of that as well. And so after those very enjoyable and serious as well conversations with them, and after running for the chairwomanship, then I started to strategize with other members of the committee. And I also want to thank Sister Kanke, who's no longer here, but also was a big part of helping me strategize. And so then Adam Shapiro as well, who was the vice chair at one point. So we just started working together to increase public affairs. But it also became an opportunity of community education in an internal sense, the radio community, WRG community, to talk more about, because we started organizing large meetings with the volunteers to talk about how do they perceive the progressive mission, how can we better fulfill it. I felt like if we're going to move forward in making significant changes in the schedule, that the air shifters needed to be on board, and furthermore, we needed to have their contribution. Many people who were air shifters have been here much longer than I had, been volunteering here longer, and had a lot of wisdom to share. And then there were new people who had ideas and wanted to see some innovation, and then folks in between. So we all needed to come together and give our ideas. Some of those meetings were not easy. You know that, you were in there. Some of those meetings were tumultuous, but the passion was definitely in the room. The commitment to WRG was in the room. But I noticed that a lot of people, some volunteers were still like, well, we need clarity on this progressive mission and how that's supposed to translate into our content. And so part of the work of the program committee too was to come up with language about what that looks like for public affairs, like what some expectations are for public affairs versus, or in addition to rather, music, and then hybrid programs like Night Watch, for example, or for that matter, African Experience Worldwide, or Fox's Minstrel, that bring together music and public affairs. Like, how do we make sure that the mission, the social justice work is coming through? So that became our work, and that meant making changes in the schedule. That's the tough stuff right there.
No doubt. Yeah, I was going to say that you navigated some really, really rocky waters. They were rough waters and big waves.
Yeah, nobody wants you to, and then not just the person on the air, but listeners as well, who appreciate what we do. They don't want you to disrupt a program that they find, very fulfilling. And so it became a challenge to, even people committed to the mission for that matter, just because, they're committed to the way they were pursuing it. But I just wanted to share with people some of the programming that came out of that. A progressive news hour from 12 to 1 p.m., that whole strip came out of that. Hard Knock Radio, which actually broadcasts in California. But I also noticed that there was this notion, I come out of the hip-hop generation. So I guess I should say I have somewhat of a love-and-hate relationship with hip-hop just because of some of what's gone on.
Yeah.
But at my heart, I'm still a part of the hip-hop generation and love the form. and was excited when I learned about Hard Knock Radio. And I was clear that there was this notion that Hard Knock Radio is somehow out of the social justice tradition that has been part of black music and social justice music overall in the U.S. And I was like, that's not true. So it's just not given, it's just not highlighted. It's very much part of its origins as well. And so because Davy D was doing that, in addition to doing interviews, he was playing progressive hip hop, I started lobbying like hard to get a strip here, and I had the support of program committee members to get Hard Knock Radio on from 1 to 2. That didn't exist before that moment either. So we had to reformat Global Drumbeat, which was tough for me coming out of World Party. I did World Party as a host earlier. And so that was tough for me, and being a Pan-Africanist, that was tough for me. But I thought we could do Global Drumbeat more effectively and still get more public affairs in that if we would shift the format. And then there were other programs. The whole 7 to 8 p.m. hour came out of that as far as public affairs goes. So Revolution African Perspectives, Alternative Perspectives, Class Chronicles, Women Speak that I host, and Youth Views and Youth Speak Truth. All of that came out of that. Radio Diaspora, which is now Beyond Borders on the weekend. We had to lobby for that as well, but to make sure that we not only were listening to and being entertained by Latino and Caribbean music and culture, but we were concerned about what was happening to Latino and Caribbean people in the world. And so Radio Diaspora and the wonderful Genevieve Williams was, Sister Warrior in that process to make sure that happened. So those were the things that came out of that. And Sunday Night Fire, also Karen Mason bringing it. All of those things developed out of that process. I'm just so grateful to have been a part of it. And to the 9 volunteers that changed sometimes the membership, but to the 8 other people on the committee. And I want to especially thanks to Bugwe Shakur, who was co-chair with me in the hottest moments. And now is the chair, along with Sharon Paget, co-chair. And Adam Shapiro was crucial to that. Crucial, great bridge person, longtime volunteer, clear on the progressive mission, no question. And fair and balanced, trying to meet different communities' needs. So, and then Dazon Dixon, you were there. Yes, Sydney, who's also on blues, and I shade Adam Shapiro too, who passed and was a great host here. I tell people that, man, Adam could do some great public affairs interviews, and then could open up the lines and handle. He was just brilliant at it. And did some of the best field reporting. Smackdowns
that I've ever heard. And if you really
in the most polite, humorous way.
Exactly. And if you wanted to hear something from the field as it was happening, you can count on Adam to be there. What a lot of people, because it is radio, would never know is that Adam was completely blind. Right? And so this is crucial. Because what you were describing to me also, the moment in bringing that public affairs in, and I don't know how much we actually hold this as an intentional conversation, is that we actually elevated our own consciousness even within a progressive agenda like a WRFG. And to model that, I think, is will always be a part of your own legacy here at WRFG. And I know that in the way that you're going to do it is really make space for all of the other people who are involved in the process. But I could talk to all of them, and no doubt we all followed you because you let us do that. And
Thank you.
So much appreciate love for that piece as well.
I want to share something Sydney said.
Please.
So Sydney Titleman is on the committee as well, a longtime member. She's from she's a blues air shifter. And Rich Pettit too was a longtime member.
That's right.
And just people very committed to the station, but sometimes didn't agree with some of what we wanted to do, and I was part of the process as well, the disagreement, and we'd work it out on the committee. And I want to say too, Dazon, and this is why I'm bringing up Sydney too. Sydney was talking about learning so much about leadership from me and from you, and taking that with her, in the rest of her life and her activities. And so your longtime experience as an activist, being able to negotiate those conversations was a big help to me. Challenging conversations. So thank you. Yes, and that's right. I'm going to bring folks in with me because they were there when I was doing the work.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes, and Sydney also kept us smiling
Yes.
and oftentimes giggling. So that was also a really important part of that process because it was the laughter.
There was a lot of
that
laughter
despite
there.
all of the disagreement, the tug and the push and pulls and the tugs of war almost,
Yeah.
if you will, that we always came out on the other end laughing because
Mhm.
we had made some hard decisions that really felt good at the end of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you mentioned it just briefly that what you also were able to usher in was Women Speak.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk some more about Women Speak.
Okay.
And because Women Speak finally made, us go from 1 to 2 hours of power.
2 hours
Of women's power here on WRG. And it has a uniquely unapologetic focus on fierce journalism while at the same time bringing an activist voice to the news. Can you talk about how you even framed and thought up Women Speak and how it fit with being the feminist womanist program that it was, but still real hard news, man.
Yeah,
hard
thank
news.
you.
Yeah.
Well, at first, there were actually 4 of us that worked on a proposal together. News Diva, they used to be here on Progressive News Hour with Chris Askew.
Mm-hmm.
She was one of the co-founders, and I met her during our work at CNN. There's an Iranian American sister who also helped us come up with the proposal. And then Jamara Amani, another powerhouse, who also spent some time working on Sisters Time too, and was one of the founders of Youth Speak Truth rather, with Project South members. They all helped me come up with it. But as it went on, and we were planning to co-host it, but as time went on, News Diva became committed to her work with Chris, and Jamar became committed to working with the youth, and the Iranian sister was no longer able to work with us, and so I still had to go ahead and start it on my own. But the root of it is Spelman College. The root of it is Spelman College because that's where I got my womanist feminist education started. Like I was telling Joni last night, the beginning is in, life experience. The personal is political, and you go through things that raise up gender inequity for you as you grow up as a girl, as a woman, but you might not have language for it. So when I went to Spelman, I started taking classes with the Women's Studies Department. I started having language for the things that concern me in the world as far as how women are treated and undervalued. And it also made me more aware of an activist tradition among black women on womanist feminist issues. And then also in the English department we had some really strong womenist feminists like Judy Gebber Hewitt.
Wow.
Okay, yes.
Whoa, one of the toughest classes I ever took.
Oh yeah, you're bold if you took that class. I got extra respect for you that I know you took that class. Dr. Gloria Wade Gales was also my mentor when I was there. Would do these incredible classes on images of women in the media. Morehouse students would come, and there'd be these lively discussions between men and women about gender issues. A lot of the guys had just thought about for the women, for that matter, gender issues for the first time. Incredible, incredible, incredible women, incredible work. I took classes with Pearl Clegg, who's now known very much as a playwright and a novelist, and was known then as a playwright, but even more so now as a novelist as well. And Paula Giddings, historian Paula Giddings, and author of When and Where I Enter. So when you sit and talk with people like this, wow. Wow. But Dr. Beverly Gottschalk, the head of the Women's Center. Janetta B. Cole. I'm honored that I came through during Janetta B. Cole time and was able to take a class with her. And then all the women that you may not meet personally but come and speak. Angela Davis, for example. So you have all these experiences, and that sowed the seed. So really it was a seed just sitting there, waiting. And I had been doing Pan-African radio here, and then I was like, well, I got plenty of colleagues covering that. But on gender, we still need some more.
Yes.
We still need some more. And Dazon is like pretty much holding this down single-handedly.
We're going to work that out.
So
Not for long.
Yes, so I was like, we need to come in and contribute that, and also bring more women of color into that discussion. So it's perfect for it to follow Sisters Time, Women of African Descent.
Yes.
And then to bring women of African descent ongoing into that conversation, but brought it also into conversation with women of color and progressive activists also of European descent.
That's right.
Giving priority.
And our allies in
Yes,
the male persuasion.
That's right.
That's right.
I enjoy that as well. And pushing them, and some don't have to push.
Yeah.
But to bring gender into that conversation, any issue they come into that space with, the men know they have to bring some gender perspective to it.
I'm going to have to take a very quick break. We've got to catch up on some messages here. But when we come back, I want to talk about, just as you move into the next thing that is Wiatta, I want you to give us not just some reflection, but give us some projection, give us some inspiration for what you would like to see for the next group of women and activists and leaders who are going to come and bring that feminist and that womanist journalist and activism work, that, as we say, it's spelled in that scholarly activism, right?
Yes.
Into the sphere. I want to hear what you think our future needs to look like, whether it's in the next few moments or in the next few years, and contextualize that smack dab in the middle of what's in our face every day right now, from Sandy Bland to everything, right? So we're going to do that when we come right back.
Okay.
So you're listening to Sisters Time right here on WRFG Atlanta 89.3 FM in one of the most anticipated conversations in my life in a while with Sister Wiatta Freeman. So we want you to stay tuned and stay engaged. We'll be right back. Wiatta, we were talking just before the break about we look backwards in terms of, and we reflected on the role, the leadership, the contribution, the inspiration, all that you've been a part of and that you've also initiated, and leave us with something, right? As you move forward, I'm sure, because you were always thinking this way anyway, of what we do going forward as WRG, especially in this space and time, with all that's going on in town. I mean, the levels of violence, the level of suppression, the politics of it all, and to some degree, what sometimes still feels like it may not be complacency or apathy, but it might even be a level of paralysis in our communities to even give voice, much less give action to what we're feeling. So talk about what we can do here, what you want to see us do here at WRG to not only fill those incredibly beautiful big shoes that you wear, but what steps the next folks following you? What do you want to see happen?
Well, Women Speak specifically, and I shared this with the program committee this week, I would really like to see it become more of an ensemble. I really, just like I didn't initially intend for it to just be one host, I still think it would be a better program with more than one host. And to have, women of color at the forefront, and that does mean, the diversity of such. So doing the best that we can to have, for example, Latino women of Arab descent, a variety of Asian women, a variety of Native American sisters, a variety of people. That's what's been on the program as guests, but it's important that they be there at the table as decision makers in the content. Yeah. So I think that that's really key going forward to the best of our ability to seek to create that. I also really emphasize the importance that it continue, if they so choose, the program committee, to keep that space as Woman is Feminist, that it remain Woman is Feminist, and not just an hour for women to be on. Right. And there's a distinction there. You can be a woman and you're not a feminist person. Right. You can be progressive and not be womanist feminist. Do you see gender inequity as something that needs to be addressed? Are you for women's empowerment and women's empowerment for social change? Not just women's empowerment to be equal in the status quo that oppresses so many people. There's a version of feminism that's that way, but that's not the one that would fit the progressive mission of WRG. That's right. That's not the one that I intended when I created Women Speak. So we want to make sure it stays progressive, stays Woman is Feminist. And intentionally I put Woman is Feminist there because I want to make sure that it's understood as women of color. We are part of a global, Dr. Geisheltal talks a bit about this, we are part of a global community of women activists. No doubt. All around the world, different ethnicities, and we're part of a feminist tradition. Then womanist, emphasize the important role women of color have done in bringing intersectionality into a predominantly white feminist movement in the West,
Yes.
you know, and beyond, and really also that including making sure that union with men to address the issues of people of color remains a part of that movement.
Mm-hmm.
So, and we thank Alice Walker for sort of beginning to codify that in words. So that's what I would like to see in that sense. As far as WRG goes, and overall, keep doing what we're doing. Just keep trying to do it better. We cover things that no one else covers. We committed to the progressive mission. Continue to do that and just always strive to do it better than we did the month before, the year before. And I would also say that we need to really make an effort. You know, Shira Coleman, when she was here as development director, not only played that role, it was an exciting time, but also she was very active in like PR and marketing for the station. And so I think we need to get back to that. There's so many people that still don't know about WRG. Right here in the area.
Right
I
here.
can't believe it.
Every day.
Yes.
Still finding folks.
Yeah, none of them
Young
our
people,
subscription
young
base.
women,
Yeah,
women.
yes.
What's your thought about, and what does that mean? Are we talking about adolescents? Are we talking about the tweens? Are we talking about young adults? Yeah, in terms of what you want.
Well, as I get older, young women get older.
Well, and look, hashtag
when I was
Funky
20.
at 50, I say I'm 25 and 25, you know, so that makes me twice the youth of some of the folks I work with. But anyway,
right.
that's my own perspective.
Hey, all right, I'll go with some of the indigenous traditions. If you're under 70 or whatever, you're still young,
that's
okay?
That's right. It's about your spirit. Numbers, I don't know.
And I just met C.T. Vivian, and he's going to be 91, and I tell you, that spirit was pretty useful
Still
and
on
vibrant.
fire.
So, but in the sense of, you know, and in that context too, you know, and I interviewed Sonia Sanchez recently too, and they have very, very different perspectives, but either way, it was sitting in front of elders and learning from what they did. And that's the beginning, and then bringing innovation. Like, for example, the Black Lives Matter, you know, movement, and I love what the women and sisters are doing in that movement right now. But to really bring the innovation of their time, social media has been a big part of this movement, for example. So to bring the innovation they bring, the elders have to be receptive as well to the innovation.
You know what, you just said something that made me think about it, and I think that this is for our listeners, especially our young women. The last time the other Clinton ran, it was a young black woman who shifted the Democratic election debates, the conversation, in ways that...
Who was that?
Sister Soldier. Okay. Yes. And now we have these sisters just last weekend who have done the same thing and have done it early.
Yes.
Even before the primaries.
That's right. That's right.
Black women have yet again come in and shifted the Democratic, at least this side so far. And the fact that we know, even in our own state, but across the country, that black women in particular are the most progressive voting bloc in this nation, that's meaningful, and to have had a part in that, Wiatta, is special, and I thank you for that.
Thank you.
I've got like 1 minute to ask you, because I know you don't want to do this part anyway, which is why I left it for like no time, is what's next for you? What's ahead of you? And I'm not talking about in your work life. I'm talking about in your life. Yeah, you put that shout out there too. Whatever you're looking for, but where are you heading, and what's next?
I do want to say, being a woman of Liberian descent and having done all this activist work, to now be shifting into helping to develop the Flo Will Foundation for Liberian education and development for young people is really important to me. You know, I mean, when you realize you only need. It's only $120 to pay tuition an entire year for a child in Liberia. I mean, that's amazing. You know, $10 a month, really? And they were really hard hit by Ebola, but President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf has done so much important work that needs to be built on. So I ask people to check it out, www.flowwill.org. That's some of the work I'll be doing.
Flowwill?
Flowwill, FLOWIL.org.
Exactly.
FLOWIL.org. Support education of African youth for a better future. So I'll be doing that. And then I'm still exploring what I'll be doing media-wise once I shift to Jersey. That's still up for a question mark. But I am working on bringing together all this work I brought back from Cuba. I did all these interviews and pictures. I've had 2 trips in the past 2 years. And next week we'll be covering that. So on Women Speak. and Sisters Time.
For 2 hours. That's right. That's right.
On Cuba. So stay tuned for that. And then in the next hour, we're going to talk about the Sandra Bland case.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to talk about economic disparities that still exist for women of color and what we can do about that.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, you know, I couldn't resist. I still had to make it all about radio.
No doubt. Well, that's what we do.
Yes.
And you do that so brilliantly, beautifully well. So, Wiatta Freeman, on behalf of the 2 hours of Women's Power here on WRG, Sisters Time, the public affairs programs, the entire station, the volunteers, the board of directors, the listening community, in town, online, all over the world, it actually, I don't like moments of silence because, you know, I come from the act up world where silence equals death.
Yes.
So I think that everybody needs to be making noise to just shout out in their moments to say, Wiatta! Right? And to just send you as much appreciation love for all that you do and for all that you are for all that you will be to us, for us, about us, with us. It's still on and popping no matter where you are, and I give thanks to you for that.
Thank you, WFG. Thank you, the board that's continuing this work. Diane included, who's here with us.
Yes.
And Cheryl Odelay, who codified so much of what we were talking about.
Yes.
Codified it.
In life, every
Okay,
day.
and make sure it's implemented here at the station. She's the board president. So thank you to all the air shifters and all the listeners. That's why we're still here. And all the subscribers. That's why we're still here. I will be a lifetime subscriber and supporter of WRG.
Boom. Well, that's going to do it for us today. I thank you again, Wiatta. I'm Dazon. We are Sisters Time. You know how it goes. God willing and the creek do rise. Well, we're going to be black next week with Wiatta, so it's all good no matter what.
Last program.
There you go.
Live on the air.
Last for now. Let's say that.
For now.
Last for now. All right. And we're going to do it on this tune as we head out. Celebrate.